Hey friends. So it's been a while since I have been with you on the podcast. It's probably been over a year. It's been a crazy year. I took a pause from the podcast and from all of my Dare to Begin business activities I needed some time to take a break and just kind of reassess where I was going. I have been working full-time for over a year and a half. I got promoted right after I decided to take a pause from Dare to Begin to leading a team. I've been leading a team now for over a year. Had my 1-year anniversary as a lead 3 days ago. And the podcast and all of you has been very much on my mind for the last few months as I've been trying to figure out, do I want to come back? What do I want to talk about? And what is this going to be? So, there's been so much on the go, and I'm not going to spend an entire episode talking about all the things that I've been doing. I know everybody's had some craziness in the last year with COVID and the pandemic and the shutdowns and. Beyond being promoted, the only other thing that I do want to just say about the last year is I've taken a lot of time to really get to know myself a bit better, and I invested in a program in February through Manifestation Babe. I took the Manifestation Babe Academy. If you're not familiar with it, I highly recommend checking out Manifestation Babe on Instagram. Her handle is at Manifestation Babe. She also has an amazing podcast called the Manifestation Babe Podcast. And the course is it's such an intense course. It was 16 weeks worth of modules. I still haven't finished all the bonus modules. I'm still working through some of the breathwork classes and a few extra things that come as part of the program. But yeah, it's all about manifestation and deep work. So that's where I've spent the last, 5 months, I suppose. And where I'm at now, I've just finished the module and I've been trying to think, like I said, I'm rambling a bit today. We're going to go through that. Mentioned that I've been trying to think what to do with the podcast. I was out for a run today. I haven't been out for a run in a very long time. And I decided a few months ago, again, I just kept getting this nudge of going for a run. I used to love going for a run. I used to love just being outside and feeling my body move and, feeling the sun on my skin and the wind in my face a little bit. And then I made it mean something, and I started to push myself, and I wasn't going far enough or fast enough or doing it often enough. And I fell out of love with it. And then COVID hit and everything shut down. So wasn't anybody doing anything anywhere. And about probably 2 months ago, I just kept getting these thoughts about running. I thought, boy, why do I keep thinking about going out for a run? Why do I keep thinking about that? Am I thinking about that just because, I'm tired of being inside? What's happening? So I finally decided to go out with only one rule. And that rule was, I should say 2 rules. One rule, the first rule was I wasn't going to listen to my ego. This wasn't going to become an ego thing. Had gone to a park, and I know the paths quite well, so I knew where I wanted to go, and I decided my stopping point, or my turnaround point, I should say, before I started. And I said to myself, this is as far as we're going. I'm not going to let my ego talk me into running further. I'm not going to beat myself up about it not being long enough. I'm going to go to this point that I decided, and then I'm going to turn around and come back, and that's how we're going to be. I need to start being in congruence with myself and what I'm saying. And the other rule was to be kind to myself. We're definitely not taught how to be kind to ourselves. I know everybody on the planet, I think, struggles with this. And there's a billion different ways that it gets taught to us that, we need to be harder on ourselves. We need to push, we need to hustle, we need to grind, we need to do all the things. If you've listened to any of the episodes before today, you'll know I am not about the hustle and the grind, but I still was really struggling. And my coach had talked to me about it, and I still couldn't figure out what that looked like. And so I headed out on my run the first day, and I said, I'm going to be kind to myself. I am not going to have expectations of myself. I haven't been on a run for quite a while. Haven't been, out on the paths for quite a while. And it's just going to be what it'll be. I don't need to push myself. I don't need to go at a certain speed. If it's barely more than like a fast walk or a shuffle, I'm going to be okay with that. And I loved it. And then I went again a couple days later and I had the same 2 rules. I'm not going to let the ego push me. I'm going to go as far as I have agreed in my mind before I started my run. And I'm going to be kind to myself. And then I did it again, and I did it again, and I did it again. And I realized I loved being outside. I loved running on the path. I loved feeling my body move. And when I took all of the expectations off, and I was clear and stayed in congruence with myself of saying, I'm not going to let my ego take over, I enjoyed it so much. I just came back from another run, and one of the reasons that I love running so much, and I'm no speed demon, I get past all the time, in case you're wondering, and every single time I get past, I remind myself, here's a great time for me to practice my self-kindness. It's not about being the fastest, it's not about proving anything, it's just about me and being outside. That's it. That's all I'm here for. So I was out today for a run. What I love about running is the space to think. So one of the very cool things that I learned in the Manifestation Babe Academy program, Catherine Zankina, who teaches the program, you'll hear me talk about Catherine probably a lot in the upcoming episodes. Catherine taught us about human design. It's fascinating. I have basically, I'm sure, a thimbleful of knowledge based on the amount that I could learn about human design, and I may dig into that further down the road. I haven't decided yet. But one of the things that I learned about myself when we were going through human design and what our chart is and what it means, or what it tells us about ourselves, is that movement is integral to me. Movement helps me think, helps me feel clearly, helps me literally move energy around my body. I learned that if I'm struggling with a decision, movement is key. Go for a walk, go for a run, go for a swim, dance, whatever, just move. It's so important for my design and my unique blueprint to move. And I started to realize why I love skiing so much, why I love running so much when I do it the way that I've been doing it. I swam a couple of times, not a fish by any means, but I went swimming a few times before Christmas, and the pools are just opening up again. So I have some swim times booked next week, which I'm really excited about. All of it is just about getting my body to move. So I'm out today and I'm running on the path and I'm listening to some music and I'm thinking about the podcast and thinking about me and thinking about the world, and really realized that I wanted to come back, but I wanted to come back the same way that I approached my run, without expectation and without bringing my ego along. And I can't not bring my ego along, but without letting it control the outcome. What was happening before when I was doing my podcast, I loved sharing ideas and thoughts and tips and insights with you every time, but it was becoming something, I was creating it into being this big thing. I had to have an intro, I had to have an outro, I had to have all of these freebies. If I didn't have freebies, I wasn't doing it right. And then that meant that I had to have a website and I had to have all these things. And it was just and it became to be too much. A week after I decided to take a pause from the podcast, I got promoted. And then I had no extra time to do anything. So it was perfect divine timing, because there was no extra time or energy left in my day by the time I finished work to be able to do anything. So it's given me a great space to sit back. So I've been thinking about the podcast a lot the last few months and trying to figure out what I want it to be. What do I want to come here and share with all of you? And I've been getting this message lately about trust and surrender. So in the Manifestation Babe Academy we obviously set manifestations. And of course I say of course as if you're in here with me. Maybe you are in here with me, but probably you're not. Our manifestations have, we set a 12-month manifestation. Of course, we have longer ones. We have some 3, 5, 10-year, whatever things that we're working on or working towards. But we had set these 12 months ones. And all the way through the program, I was totally okay with being a little bit behind. Some of the modules were really, really heavy. And between the modules and the deep nature of my work, I couldn't keep up. So I just went at my own pace. And I was okay with that. And I was okay with finishing a little bit later. And I was okay as I was finishing up the course that I hadn't manifested anything in yet from, what I was taught, had set out to manifest. I was okay with the fact that the intention I set hadn't fully manifested in my reality, even though I was seeing people in our Facebook group sharing some amazing manifestations. And then 4 days after I finished the last module, I got all up in my head and felt like I needed to start doing something. I obviously wasn't doing enough because nothing had manifested yet. What did I need to do more of? Very used to being in the masculine energy. Masculine energy is very doer. We are taught mostly that masculine energy is the better energy, and that feminine energy is the weaker energy. I'm learning it's not at all that way. They are, neither is better or worse, neither is weaker or stronger. But our society very much celebrates the masculine energy, that doing. That's where the hustle and the grind and all that bullshit comes from. So I was finished the module, and 4 days afterwards, I suddenly got back into this doing energy. And I open up the Manifestation Babe podcast, and there's an episode about surrender. And I'm like, I've already heard this one before. All right, I'm going to listen to the other one and see what she has to say. And then yesterday, I finished work, wondering what to do with myself. I do that often. If I finish work a bit early, I kind of wander about the house going, what do I do now? I'm like, I'm going to go for a walk. I don't want to talk to anybody, though. I don't want to call anybody. I don't want to go anywhere for my walks. I'm just going to walk around the neighborhood, which I'm fine with. I'm going to see what Catherine has to say. And I happen to open up the surrender episode, fully coming in with not kidding, full ego of, I'm sure I've heard all of this before. To my utter surprise, it was not a pre-recorded episode. It was one that she had just recorded and talking about the art of surrender and what does that look like. And I realized that in this doing energy, I actually have no idea how to trust and surrender. How do I actually let go and not get into my masculine self and try to do everything? I'm a doer. I like to do things. I like to be busy. I'm not great at relaxing, and I don't need that much of it. I need a lot of time alone. I'm definitely an introvert, where I get my energy from being on my own, but I can do a lot, which I also realize is part of my human design. So go for my walk, listening to the podcast, thinking about surrender, realizing that I have no idea how to really do this. And in the podcast episode, Catherine shares an example of if you are climbing a mountain and you're carrying a backpack full of rocks, you can just put down the rocks. You know that it's not helpful as you're climbing this mountain to carry the bag full of rocks, right? You're not getting any value out of it. It's not helping you. There's no nutrition that's happening in this bag of rocks. It's just a bag full of rocks, and it's making the walk harder. So she likened the idea of surrendering to the universe as you just take off the backpack of rocks. Just do it. It doesn't have to be this whole big thing. You just do it. Just put it down. You don't need it. And this idea that we have of feeling that we need to worry or stress or do or action. All those emotions that we suddenly attach expectation, right, on things that we're wanting to create into our life, and that we have this belief that we need to have those things in order to make them manifest. And the truth is, we see a lot of that messaging. See a lot of the messaging that says, if you want your dreams to come true, you have to run them down. If you want your dreams to come true, you have to hustle. You have to get up at 5 a.m. You have to work until 10 p.m. You have to work 7 days a week. You have to work until they show up. You need to out exhaust them. You can action the hell out of it and eventually it has to yield. And maybe that's true, but it's a really shitty experience. It's what I went through in the 6 years that I had my design business. And it didn't have the result that I wanted. And when I finally finished my design business, like I was saying with a friend today, that I said, I have no regrets about leaving it and I have no desire to go back. And it's a very interesting approach to realize that I don't have any desire because I thought that's where I was meant to be. And then when I came to Dare to Begin, same thing. I approached it with the hustle and grind mentality and not having any idea how to surrender. So on my run today, I'm thinking about this podcast and I'm thinking about trust and surrender and thinking about, what does that look like? And came to this conclusion. My 15 minutes of rambling is about to tell you why I'm here. I am going to do a 1-year experiment. The experiment I am very loosely titling Trust, Surrender, and Radical Self-Love. I've been on a journey for a number of years about money and trying to understand money and understand my relationship with money and understand my beliefs about money and why I continue to manifest a reality of leveraged money. And by leveraged money, I mean credit card debt, loans, effectively spending more money than I have. Even when I'm not spending anything fun, I'm doing a good job about keeping my my everyday expenses down. I'm not shopping. I'm not doing fun things. I would still create these situations where all of a sudden I have this huge expense. Last summer, perfect example. I was so proud. I had made big financial headway over the first 6 months of the year. I was so fucking stoked about it. And then I needed to rebuild my engine. It was a $12,000 repair. That was almost the entire amount of progress that I had made in the first 6 months. And I was mad and frustrated, but also trying very hard to not hold that energy, knowing how important energy is in what we're doing. But as I got deeper into my relationship with money and really started to understand my beliefs, and then coming to yesterday on this week, I realized that I'm unpacking these beliefs and I'm building new, better, I'll use better loosely, beliefs that are helping me create a reality that I want. And then I went to go pay my credit card statement yesterday and realized with some frustration that it's almost the exact same balance as it was the last time that I had looked at it, even though I'd already made a payment in between now and then. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? So I get back into this. Okay, I need to do more. Okay, what do I need to do more? Okay, so if I want to have it bring down, okay, so I need to be even more vigilant about where I'm spending money. Okay, but I'm not really spending any money. But obviously I must be spending too much or I wouldn't be still here. Okay, cool. I must be needing to do more doing on my beliefs because obviously my beliefs are still not in line with where I want to go and really into this doing energy. And then remembered, hey, how about I just surrender? How about I just not worry about it? How about I just do what I've agreed to do, which is be mindful of where I'm sending my money out into the world and be intentional every time I sit down to make a payment. And what if I let the universe do the rest? And for someone who is very much about being in control of her life, that's a terrifying thought. So thinking about all of these things and pairing this with a very strong self-awareness of my body. I think every woman out there would agree with me, most of you would agree with me, that we are taught, shown, and led to believe that we need to look a certain way. I don't look that certain way. I'm by no means fat, but I definitely am carrying a bit more weight than I would like. My body is not the shape of a model. And even though everybody that I know, doesn't feel that I obviously need to look that way, and my boyfriend thinks I look beautiful and tells me all the time, in my mind, I don't look like I'm giving you air quotes here, supposed to. And it's been struggling with me. And then I get to thinking, okay, I need to eat healthier. And it's not okay to eat something because it's delicious. I need to eat healthy. And then I start, shaming on myself if I don't eat healthy. And those weeks where your energy and your hormones go completely off the charts and all you want is a chocolate bar. So what I've realized is that I don't really know how to surrender. I'm struggling at knowing how to trust. And that I love myself in some ways, but I don't love myself in all ways. And thinking about my human design, I believe it is one of the centers in my human design chart, talked about self-love. Self-love being a massive, call it like power center for me in particular. Meaning, and the idea that when I am in my deep, true, authentic self, I give space and encourage and inspire others to do the same, which is an absolutely amazing, amazing gift to have, to know that when I stand in my own, when I am just me, when I'm just Amy, just as I am, not putting expectations on myself, that I have the ability to inspire and empower others to do the same. So all of this has been rolling around in my mind for months and sort of culminated today in my run into that idea that I shared earlier about trust, surrender, and radical self-love. So I decided that I'm going to try something. I'm going to try an experiment, and I'm going to ask if you would like to come along with me. And you don't have to. This experiment is 100% for me, but I'm going to share my journey as I go, and hopefully it will inspire and empower you or someone else that you know in your own journey. Once a week, it's going to be messy. It's not going to be polished. There isn't going to be an intro. There isn't going to be an outro. I'm probably not going to have free downloads. I'm not going to have, the like me and follow me. And I'll try to remember to say, hey, if you want to follow me, I'm on Instagram at I Dare to Begin. Like the podcast. If you want to leave a review, great. But I'm not doing it for that. And I'm going to, once a week, check in about my 1-year experiment. My 1-year experiment of trust, surrender, and radical self-love. On my list for probably this week/weekend is to potentially see if I can find a book or a podcast or something that talks a bit more about what that radical self-love looks like. It's a journey. I have absolutely no freaking idea where it's going to go. And yeah, we're just going to see what happens. That's it. I'm going to sign off. If you have listened all the way through, thank you for listening to my rambling. If you are interested in following along, I'll be here again next week. The only other thing that I will say is, in the spirit of it being unpolished, it will be fully that. I will be honest. I'll be open. I swear, if you don't like it, you might want to listen to another podcast. If you have little ones around and you don't want them to hear me swear, you might want to wear some headphones. So just full disclosure, that's what to expect. And I will see you next week. Bye, friends.